I want to, once again, just publicly thank my dear brother, David, for preaching for 3 weeks. I heard nothing but good things. I have listened to 2 of them, have been challenged, and am so thankful that when I let David come up and preach to you guys, that I never have to ever wonder about his heart, and I don't have to wonder about his theology. And when you have people in your church that love your church and can preach your word, the more of them there are, the more blessed the church is. So David, thank you so much, man. And I look forward to us doing some stuff here together shortly. And I decided, because we only have 2 weeks before camp. We have this week, then VBS is next week, so we won't meet, and then we have 1 more week, and then we have camp. I didn't want to start something new in this kind of bouncing around thing, so I thought, well, what I'll do is I'll continue to take David's theme of Kingdom Tales, and we'll just do 2 more. We'll do 1 tonight, we'll do 1 in a couple weeks. And I want to start this way. The Lord has filled His universe with valuable things. Okay? There is a version of Christianity that basically says we need to remove ourselves away from the things of the earth. As if the things of the earth are intrinsically wicked or evil, and that's simply not the case. God has given us the wonderful, valuable things of this earth to use for His glory. Now, what happens is that you have people who are sinful and wicked, and you have an enemy like Satan who wants to pollute all the valuable things that are in this world. And that's exactly what he tries to get people to do, to pollute the good things that God has given us. So, for instance, I'm just going to name 3 right now, right off the jump. The first is this. Money. Money is good. Now, what happens is that people use money in evil ways. Power is good. You're going to have to, turn Neil down. If you see Neil. Got it? Is that better? Because I'm just going to get louder, so as we go. All right, good? Power. Power's not evil. Power's not wicked. Power's not sinful. What happens is wicked, sinful people get a hold of power and they use it the wrong way. Sex is a good thing God has given us. But what happens is that we do it and we use it in a way that God hasn't given us to do it, and a way that God hasn't desired for us, and we ruin it. I'm going to name you a few things that I value. I tried to get pictures of all these things, and I was going to put them up on the screen, and I was having so much trouble with the clarity of them. I don't know what was going on. But I value my wife. My wife is valuable to me. Okay? I value my children. They are valuable to me. I care deeply about my family. I care deeply about my friends. When Jessica and I went on vacation, we went with our dearest friends, Michael and Stephanie Moore, Carter's parents. We went with them, and we had such a wonderful time just being able to relax and be with each other and just enjoy our friendship. And it was a glorious thing to have godly friends. Friends are valuable to us. Nature is valuable. Right? We walk outside and fresh cut grass, doesn't it just smell good? I don't know why it smells so good, but when I get done mowing and weed eating, or Caden mows and weed eats if he doesn't have COVID, and we get done and it looks good and it smells good. And how about now, not so much in the summertime when it rains and it's hot and it's like death afterwards, but like in the spring or the fall when it's kind of cool and it rains and you get that smell that comes with the rain. It's just something beautiful about it. I got to swim, y'all, listen to this. I have wanted my entire life to swim in a freshwater pool that was fed by a waterfall. And I got to do it, and I was so pumped and excited, and it was freezing cold. My nipples fell off. They just fell right off into the water. It was unbelievable. It was so cold, but it was so wonderful and so great. We got to see the beach and waterfalls and volcanoes and turtles and crabs and fish. And nature is beautiful, and you can go all over the world and see all kinds of different beautiful, valuable things God has given us in nature. I love the Mavericks. I value basketball. Like I do. I value basketball. I think basketball is fantastic. I love it. I value it. I get excited about it, or mad about it, or frustrated. Sometimes apathetic. How about music? How valuable is music? We just love music. It's just a wonderful thing. You just turn it on, jam out to it, you know? Watermelon sugar, something like that. You know, you just jam out to it, and music is wonderful, and playing music is wonderful. People who love to play music, and how about all other kinds of arts? You have Shelby, you have performing arts, right? You've got people that actually they perform pieces of music, or they perform a play, or they put on some kind of presentation. Or they're painters, right? People can paint, and they can draw, and they can sculpt, and there's value in art. There's value in so much of what we see around us. There's value in it, and I just want to make it very, very clear. God has no problem with us valuing the things of the earth. Okay? God doesn't say, you shouldn't value your wife, or your children, or your friends, or nature. But there's a whole vibe sometimes in Christianity that says we shouldn't enjoy the things of the earth because somehow that's not spiritual. Now, I wanted to preface all of that tonight because of where we're going. Turn with me to Matthew chapter 13. I want us in our minds to think of all the things we value. Some of you are upset because I didn't mention video games. Value video games. You value movies. Right, Carter? Movies. I want you to build up in your mind all the things you value. Okay? Build it up, get it big in your mind. That's going to be important. I'm going to read Matthew 13, 44 through 46. Here's what the text says. The kingdom of heaven is like treasure hidden in a field, which a man found and covered it up. Then in his joy he goes and sells all that he has and buys the field. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant in search of fine pearls, who on finding one pearl of great value went and sold all that he had and bought it. These two parables should be put together. They should be taught together because they relate to one another, and they're really teaching one important fact, namely that Jesus and his kingdom are of infinite and ultimate value compared to everything else in the universe. Okay, these two parables are teaching one principle together, that Jesus and his kingdom are of infinite and ultimate value compared to everything else of value in the universe. And before we go into the 4 points that each of these little parables have, I want to tell you one distinct difference between them. Okay, before we look at the similarities, let me give you one distinct difference. The first parable has a man in a field who comes upon unexpectedly and surprisingly upon a treasure. Okay? He wasn't looking for it. He was simply in the field. He may have been working the field. We don't know for sure. He may have been working the field. He may have been just taking a casual, wonderful summer evening walk through the field. We don't know, but he comes across a treasure. But he doesn't, it comes by accident or unexpectedly. And I want to say this, there are people in this world, okay, there's a category of people in this world that are not spiritual and not religious. Like, they don't even think about it. It's not even something that they worry about. It's not really on their radar. They just kind of are just living their life, doing their best, being as quote unquote good as they can be, right? Being the best kind of person they can be. But religion and spirituality are not even on the table, and then they encounter Jesus Christ and their life changes. There's a group of people like that. But there's another group of people who are kind of like the merchant. Maybe they were brought up in a religious home, or they were brought up in a spiritual environment. And so their goal in life is to find the ultimate meaning of life, right? They're kind of searching for it. They're trying to find the big answers to the big questions. And so they're searching for the meaning of life. So you got one group, they ain't searching for that. There's like, I just want to have fun and love my family and go to work and enjoy my day, and I don't worry about the big questions in life. And then boom, Jesus, everything changes. Then you got people who are trying to find the meaning in life. They're trying to find what everything is really all about. And then boom, they meet Jesus and everything changes. They find the answer to the big questions. I believe almost everybody fits in one of those two categories. You either don't care and you're not looking for it and it's not something you worry about, or you do worry about it and you are looking for the answers and the big meaning of things and all that kind of stuff. And here I think we get these two stories back to back in order that we can see how these two different groups encounter the treasure of Jesus and his kingdom. Now, I would love to say that everything I'm going to share with you tonight is just fresh off the top of my dome. Like, I just got it all together. But I'm going to tell you right now, James Montgomery Boyce did the best possible job of explaining this text of all the commentaries that I have. I'm letting you know right now, a lot of what I'm going to be sharing with you is coming from James Montgomery Boyce. He was a Presbyterian pastor who died, I believe, in 2001. He was fantastic. If you guys know who is one of his disciples? Nope, that's what I'm thinking of.
That's his name.
Do you have a book?
Yeah, I've got a commentary in there, Covenant Theology. You know what I'm saying? He wrote Ordinary. Michael Horton.
Oh, Michael Horton.
Gotcha, beat you. Michael Horton. Michael Horton was a man who was raised in his church and raised underneath his ministry, and Michael Horton has meant a lot. I'm just prefacing that just to get that out there because he just brings out some wonderful things, and I want to do the same tonight. 4 observations from both of these stories, okay? 4 things that they got in common that I want us to see. Number 1, recognizing the value of the treasure. It's hard to imagine either one of these two men finding this treasure or this prize and just dismissing it. Okay? It's hard for me to imagine that this man is walking in the field and he comes across this treasure that has been buried in the ground, and he just kind of, kicks it a little bit and looks at it a little bit and realizes that it's a treasure and goes, and just keeps on with his walk. It's hard to imagine somebody doing that, right? I mean, my goodness, sometimes we find like the littlest thing on the ground and we're like, look at this. Like, and it's just some little, I pick up coins. If I see a nickel on the ground, I pick it up, put it in my pocket. I ain't wasting that thing. Hard to imagine finding a treasure and then just kind of, meh. Hard to imagine a merchant who is searching for valuable pearls. Like, that's what he's doing. He's trying to find valuable pearls. Finds the most valuable pearl in existence and then goes, well, not a big deal. We can't even fathom someone doing that. A treasure is valuable. And when people are thinking rightly, they will not dismiss a treasure. Let me say that again. when people are thinking rightly, they will not dismiss a treasure. We would say something's wrong with that dude if he walks over to that treasure, kind of kicks it around a little bit, sees a bunch of diamonds, buried in the ground, and then just walks off and doesn't worry about it. Like, something's wrong. Something's wrong with the merchant who's trying to find valuable pearls, finds the most valuable pearl, and then doesn't care. But this is what happens all the time when people encounter the gospel, guys. People encounter the greatest treasure in the universe and then dismiss it. The greatest news that has ever been announced to people, and they say, happens every day. And people walk away from the treasure of Jesus and continue to live their own lives, leaving that treasure behind, leaving their lives unchanged. The answer to all of their needs, the answer to everything that they could ever desire is there, and they don't care. That's why I said anyone thinking rightly wouldn't dismiss a treasure. So many people find no value in the treasure of the gospel, so they stay in spiritual poverty. These two men do not do that. These two men recognize the treasure for the treasure that it is. Okay? These two men recognize the treasure for the treasure that it is. I love this verse. This is Psalm 84, the second half of verse 10. We're going to read the first half in a few minutes, but the second half of verse 10, the psalmist says this: I would rather be a doorkeeper in the house of my God than dwell in the mansions of the wicked. I would rather be a doorkeeper in the house of my God. My God is such a treasure. I would have the lowest possible role in the kingdom of God. I'd rather have that than have the highest role that this world could ever give. These two men recognize the treasure that they have. Second thing I want you to see, they are determined to gain the treasure. Okay? So they recognize the value of the treasure, and then they're determined to gain the treasure. They were determined to get what they found. They didn't just find it and go, yay, a treasure. They went, yay, a treasure. I want that treasure. Like, I want that to be my treasure. I don't want that treasure just to stay here. Now, the story doesn't spell this out very well, but I want you to imagine the opposite happening, okay? I want you to imagine with me the very opposite thing happening. Imagine a man discovers this great treasure and he sees the value of the treasure, but he decides as he reflects on the treasure that it would be too much trouble to do what it would take in order to get the treasure for himself. Okay? So a man finds a great treasure, but then as he contemplates and as he reflects upon the treasure, he goes, it's going to be just too much trouble for me to get this treasure for myself. He might have to adjust his priorities in his life a little bit. May have to sell some of the stuff in his life. Maybe he would have to change his lifestyle completely. That would take a lot of time and a lot of effort. I mean, he might even be misunderstood by his family and friends. Sure, he'd be a rich man, but the changes that it would take in order to become the rich man are just too difficult. That is the opposite of what these two men do. These two men see the value of the treasure, and then they are determined, I don't care what I got to do, I want that treasure. That thing is so valuable that I want that thing for myself. And I may have to change my priorities. I may have to change my lifestyle. I may have to run up against family and friends who don't understand what I'm doing. But that thing is so valuable and that treasure is so valuable that I'm willing to do it in order to get the treasure. Determined to make it theirs. It's interesting that people in this world will hear the gospel of Jesus Christ They will even see the worth of the gospel. I was listening to a discussion between N.T. Wright and a man who calls himself an agnostic. And here's what's so crazy. An agnostic is someone who doesn't know. That's kind of how they describe themselves. They're like, I just don't know. I don't know if there's a God. I don't know if Christianity's right. I don't know. There could be, but I don't really, I don't lean one way or the other. But then as I listened to this man talk to N.T. Wright about Christianity, he talked about Christianity in the most glowing of terms. He talked about how valuable Christianity has been to civilization and to society, and what Jesus did and Jesus' followers, and how good they are for the earth, and how wonderful Christianity is, and yet he himself won't believe in it. There are people in the world who hear the gospel. They even see the worth of the gospel, the worth of Jesus and his kingdom, but they are not determined to have it. They will not take the treasure for themselves because it might just be too difficult. Things might just get too hard. So they stay in spiritual poverty. Number 3, these two men in this parable gave everything to purchase the treasure. What did it take for these two men to get the treasure? Everything. Everything. Having recognized the value of the treasure, they sold everything they had to make the purchase. Now, the first guy, let's take the first case. He didn't own this field. And you're saying, okay, he didn't own this field, so maybe he was working in it, maybe he was walking through it, we don't know. He came across this treasure. Now we hear that in the 21st century. Are we in the 21st century? Yes, 21st century. We hear that and we say, that's weird, you're finding a treasure buried in a field. Don't go home today and start digging up the fields around your house and think that you're going to find a buried treasure. You're not. But in this day, it was a thing that could really happen because there weren't banks for you to go put your money in. So if you had a valuable treasure, one of the things that you would do is bury it on your property. Bury it to where you're the only one who knew where it was, and it was buried so that nobody else could find it. They couldn't walk into your home and see the treasure in the corner, because guess what would happen? Maybe I ought to come back here later. And there weren't alarms. So finding a buried treasure seems crazy to us today, even though we kind of think about pirates, finding a buried treasure or burying a treasure and One-Eyed Willie and all that good stuff. You know who One-Eyed Willie is? Google it. Mikey and One-Eyed Willie. Look it up. Change your life forever. So sometimes burying it is the best option. The owner of this field doesn't know there's a treasure in his field. Okay? He doesn't know that this treasure is in his field. It's not his treasure. Somebody has buried it a long time ago. This man is now coming upon it. And what he does is he goes and he sells all of his valuables. Now listen to me. All of his valuables, the things in his life that were worth something, were sold to get the thing that was more valuable. You following me? The stuff that he had was valuable. It's like what I was saying a while ago. The things of the earth are valuable, but this man was willing to sell all the stuff that he had that was valuable in order to go get the thing that was even more valuable. Now let's take the second guy. The second guy, this merchant. He was searching for pearls, valuable pearls. Now in this day, pearls were some of the most valuable things you could have. And just like they're very valuable today, okay, pearls are still very, very valuable. But unlike our day, they didn't have synthetic fake pearls, right? Like you could go and buy fake pearls and you could wear them, and sometimes it might be hard at first glance to know, is that a real pearls or are those fake pearls, right? You don't know sometimes. Well, in this day, there weren't fake pearls. So if you had pearls, you had something of really, really high value. And in fact, they were a conspicuous way of telling people you were rich. right? Some people didn't they wouldn't flaunt everything. What they do is they would wear pearls, and it would tell everybody else, oh, this person's wealthy. They have a strand of pearls around their neck. This person's wealthy. And this merchant is going around trying to acquire as much valuable pearls as he can get. And what does he do? He comes across the most valuable pearl, and he sells everything else he has to get it, which means he probably sells the other pearls that he has. These pearls are valuable, and this other stuff I have in my possession is valuable. This stuff is valuable. It's worth something. It's good stuff, but I'm willing to sell all of this to get this valuable pearl that's worth more than all of this stuff. Both of these men sell what they have of value to get that which was of ultimate value. So it is with the way we view Jesus and his kingdom. Listen, if I took everything that I value in my life and I could roll it up into a ball of value. I don't know what that is. Is that a thing, Asir? A ball of value? I don't know. Is that not a thing? I don't know. But we've created it now. It's in my hand. It's a ball of value. If I could roll everything up into a ball of value, and I could compare everything in my life of value to Jesus, there would be an infinite difference. There wouldn't just be a difference. It would be an infinite difference. There is no comparison to everything else I have of value and Jesus. That is why Jesus said to people, unless you hate your father and mother, you can't follow me. And that sounded so weird. Like, what, I'm supposed to go and be like a jerk to my parents? Man, forget y'all. I love Jesus. And walk out? Like, doesn't make any sense. He wasn't saying to go and actually hate your parents. What he was doing is he was making a comparison. He was saying, compared to the love you have for me, it's your love for your parents would look like hate. In other words, when you compare your love for your family and your love for me, they couldn't be any more different. The infinite value of Jesus. That's why these two men were willing to sell everything they had to get something that was worth more than everything they had. It's interesting. Jesus said to his disciples, those that have left father and mother and family and possessions for my sake will receive back 100-fold. Jesus knew that in a lot of people's lives, they were going to lose family to follow Jesus. Listen, if you grow up in a Muslim country and you're going to follow Jesus, guess what you're going to lose? Everything. Everything. I mean, I have seen story after story after story of people who were disowned completely from their family. The only reason is because they wanted to love Jesus, and their family said, if you do that, you're no longer part of this family. And they've lost everything. That's a real thing that happens. This isn't just a story that doesn't have real consequences in people's life. All over this world, people are giving up everything to follow Jesus. Listen, tens of thousands of people give their lives up every year because they're a Christian. They die. They are put to death because they love Jesus. So when this says they sold everything for that which was of infinite value, that happens. Now, you may not have to give up everything you value. The command of Jesus is not that you have to give up everything of value. The command of Jesus is, would you for Jesus? If your family disowned you, if your family ran you out, if you lost all of your possessions, would you still view Jesus as infinite value? So I'm not saying the stuff in the world is bad. I'm saying the stuff in the world is really, 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 really good. And it is of infinitely less valuable than Jesus is. even though it's really, 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 really good. This first part of Psalm 84:10 says, better is one day in your courts than 1,000 elsewhere. Give me one day with Jesus, and it is better than 1,000 with anybody else. Give me a relationship with Jesus. Give me one day in the court with my Jesus, and it is more valuable than 1,000 days with anybody else. I spent 10 days in Maui with my wife. Oh boy, was it great. 1 second with Jesus would be infinitely more valuable than those 10 days in Hawaii with my wife. You get the point here? What Jesus is saying in this parable? They gave up everything to get the thing that was worth more than everything. And then lastly, they acquired the treasure. Having recognized the value of their discovery, having sold everything they had, the man in the field and the merchant made their purchase. They acquired what their heart desired. This tells us something about salvation. Salvation is not merely hearing about Jesus, seeing the value of Jesus, and wanting Jesus. Listen, salvation is not merely hearing about Jesus, seeing the value of Jesus, and wanting Jesus for yourself. Christ must become yours by faith. You can hear about Jesus and come to the edge. You can see the value of Jesus. You can want Jesus. But then when it takes the faith to jump off that ledge, so many people turn and they don't do it. These two men jumped off the ledge. They went and acquired what it is that their heart desired. Yes, listen to this. Yes, there's an intellectual element of believing the truths about the gospel. If you are going to believe about Jesus and the gospel and the kingdom, there are facts you have to intellectually believe. Right? Jesus was a real person. He died on the cross. He rose again. Intellectual, true, factual statements you have to believe. There is an emotional element because we feel drawn to what we recognize. We hear these factual statements, we see these factual truths, and we're drawn to it. But there's also an element of faith that must go into this. We must make a commitment to Jesus, who the gospel represents and brings us into his kingdom. I want to end with something I've done a bunch of times. Biblical math. Okay? I love biblical math because it doesn't seem like it should go together. It's the only kind of math I like, okay? All other math I hate. This is the only kind of math I like. When we were on vacation, I can't even do like 20% tip, y'all. Like when I go and I get my check, and we went out to eat with Matt and April the other day, and Matt didn't use any kind of calculator to come up with his tip after we got done eating. Me, I use the calculator on my phone, on my watch, and it even has a tip button. You hit tip, and it 20% and tells you exactly what the tip is. I'm like, where was this when I was in school? It's called a calculator. Here's my favorite biblical math. Listen to this very carefully. Everything minus Jesus equals nothing. Okay? Everything minus Jesus equals nothing. But nothing plus Jesus equals everything. Everything minus Jesus leaves you with nothing. But if you got nothing plus Jesus, you got everything. Now here's what's amazing, guys. And listen, we don't hear a lot of people preaching this. What I'm about to tell you right now, we don't have a lot of people preaching it because people are afraid of it. People are scared of it. I don't know if they want to push themselves so far from the prosperity gospel that they're not willing to talk about it. But the truth is, Jesus talked about this. Jesus promises that those who have Jesus will have everything else. Listen to me. I'm not making this junk up. You're going to get everything, church. That's not a figure of speech. We inherit the earth. All of it. becomes ours in Jesus. So nothing plus Jesus equals everything because Jesus is everything, but then Jesus throws in everything else. That's why he says, listen, whatever you have given up for my kingdom, I'm going to give back to you 100-fold. Anything that sin has taken away, I'm giving it back to you 100-fold. Anything that you have gone through, any kind of persecution, any kind of suffering, anything that has happened to you, I'm giving it back to you 100-fold. Because you're my people. Now, it may not be in this life, even though, by the way, a lot of it is. Think about the relationships you have. Just that alone. Think about the relationships you have because of Jesus. How pure and true and good they are. It may not all be in this life, though much may be. But eventually, everything will be ours. But to kind of put a twist on something C.S. Lewis said, listen to this and we're done. You don't get everything by wanting everything. Listen real carefully. You don't get everything by wanting everything. You get everything by wanting Jesus. In other words, you don't go, oh, I'll take Jesus so that I can get the everything. Oh, no. That's not how it works. Jesus is the pearl of great price. Jesus is the treasure. But he'll throw everything else in. Seek first the kingdom of God, and everything else will be given to you.